that actually lists all 3 races of the game according to their units and tech tree. So I have Terran selected right now, so you can see a breakdown of every unit that the Terran have at their disposal. This is very useful when you first start playing the game, or when you need to make a quick reference for something that for a unit. You can just click on it and see what it does. It shows you their life, their armor, their attack, their abilities. It shows you pretty much everything that they can do. And it also gives you a little tab that shows you what they're strong against and what they're weak against, which is a very relative thing, so to speak. But just be aware of this. It is very useful for you to come and look at this occasionally if you're confused about something. It also shows the tech tree, which is a little bit more complicated, and I won't get into it quite just yet. So these are up here for you to be aware of. Please keep them in mind. Now next, I'm going to show you the up here on the upper right hand side of the screen. We have 3 very important icons that you will need to be aware of during every single game that you play. The first one right here is minerals. In this game, in Starcraft, there are 2 resources that you have to gather in order to accomplish things. There are minerals, which are these blue crystals here that are laid out right around my units, and I'll get to these guys in a second. So you cannot do anything in this game without minerals. You cannot construct a unit, you cannot train a unit. There is nothing in this game that will not require minerals from you. So needless to say, they are very important, and having a having a lot of minerals is a good thing, unless you're not spending them. But we'll get to that as well. Next, after that, is Vespene gas. Vespene gas is the second resource in the game which can be gathered from these Vespene geysers. One thing to note right off the bat about Vespene gas is that I'm going to show this to you actually. Go ahead. No, I'm not actually. I'll get to it all in good time. Vespene gas is the second resource in the game. It is slightly harder to acquire, but it is very essential. With just minerals, you can only create basic structures and units, and anything more advanced, like say Terrans can build standard infantry soldiers like Marines with just minerals, but if I wanted to create anything more advanced than that, if I wanted to start making tanks, if I wanted to start making heavier infantry units, I would need to gather gas and start spending that. So that is very important. And after that, we have the supply. The supply is arguably one of the most important things to keep track of the whole time you're playing the game. So in StarCraft 2, you can build armies, and but there is a limit to the armies that you can create. You can't just keep making units endlessly. That would be kind of silly. It would kind of break the game in some situations as well, I'm sure. So what is supply? We have 6 out of 11 here. What this means is that I have 11 supply total. This is pretty much like food for my army, basically. Think of it that way. Food for my army. And the 6 means that I currently have 6 units taking up 6 supply. So these little guys down here, SCVs, these are the basic training worker, the basic worker units for the Terran. And I have 6 of them, so I have 6 supply used up. If I train another SCV, it'll be 7 supply out of 11 used up. What does this mean? It means that every unit in this game uses up supply. So if you're training a Marine, a Marauder, any unit, whether it's for working or attacking or whatever it may be, will use up part of your supply. So in order to be able to have a large army, you need to have a large supply. So, and if you meet the supply capacity, you will not be able to train additional units. So let me go ahead and show you what is going on down here in the center of the screen. Right here we have the command center and 6 SCVs. Every race in the game at the beginning of a multiplayer match will start with exactly this look. It will be slightly different for each race because they don't have the exact same worker units or buildings, but it's basically the same thing. 1 primary building structure close to a mineral patch, 2 geysers, and then 6 worker units. Now, in order to start harvesting minerals, all I'm going to do is I'm going to box all these SCVs. I'm going to right click on a mineral patch, and they're going to go start harvesting minerals. So now you're going to notice the mineral count is going to start rising. And while they're doing that, I'm going to go to my command center. And the command center serves a variety of purposes. First of all, the command center is where resources that your workers gather are going to be returned to. If you do not have a command center, you will not be able to get resources that your workers are gathering. So all these workers, as they finish gathering a batch of minerals, they will come back here and deposit them, and they will increase your mineral count up here. The other thing that the command center does primarily is it constructs additional worker units. So if you look, now it's time to show you the command card down here, which is very, very important. The command card down here shows whatever you have selected and what it can do. So we have the unit itself here, its held, its name, and then we have what it can, what the different things it can do. So here's train SCV. I'm going to hit that, and the command center is going to begin training an SCV unit down here. And you can see the progress of it down here. You can see the SCV, you can see the training bar progressing slowly, and once it's finished, an SCV will pop out down here. Here we have it. So I'm going to go ahead and tell this guy to start harvesting minerals as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind about all buildings in this game is that they all have a rally point command. So if you just select the building and then right click somewhere with the building, it will set a rally point for that location. What this means is that whatever units that come out of that building, whatever units finish training, will just immediately head to that position. And this is very important for you to keep note of, because this means that if I set a rally point for the mineral patch, the SCV is not going to pop out at the bottom here and do nothing. Instead, it's going to head straight to the mineral patch and start harvesting minerals right away. Just something very useful to keep in mind that may not be immediately obvious, especially if you've never played an RTS game before. So while these guys are harvesting minerals for a little while, I'm going to show you a couple of the other things here in the game interface. The command card here changes according to whatever you have selected. So if you have a building selected, it shows the abilities that building can do. So in this case, train SCV, set rally point, lift off. I'll get into that later. If you select an SCV, which is a actual unit in this game, you'll see that it changes quite a bit. Now, first of all, here are 5 commands that every unit in this game has: move, stop, hold position, patrol, and attack. So, move, a lot of these things are just executed automatically when you right click. In this game, left clicking is used for selecting. So if I click on an SCV, I select that SCV. If I click on a building, I select that building. If I click on a Vespene Geyser, I select that Vespene Geyser, even though I can't really do anything with it. If I right click, while I have something selected, it does the most appropriate action for whatever I click on. So I'm going to click with the SCV somewhere, like over here where it's kind of dark, and the SCV will travel there. Move command right off the bat. If I were to right click on a mineral patch, like I've done already, it'll go harvest minerals. If I just right click on, if there were enemy units in this map, which there are not, if I right click on an enemy unit, the SCV would attack, but since it's a worker unit, it doesn't really stand much of a chance in an actual battle, so not something you really want to do. The other thing, a few other commands here that are not very obvious at first as well. We have hold position. If I if I tell my SCV to move somewhere and then something happens, like let's say an enemy comes out of somewhere and starts attacking it, the SCV will start moving away because it is not a unit meant for attacking, so it'll just kind of try to escape the attack. But if you tell an SCV or any other unit in the game to hold position, that unit will not move regardless of what happens around it. A nuke could go off inches away from its face, and it would not budge from this position until you told it otherwise. Another of the commands that are listed on here is patrol. Basically, patrol, when you select it and then use it somewhere, the unit will travel between the point where it was at to the point that you selected. So it's just very useful for you to keep an eye on certain areas. And then we have the attack command. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have a unit selected and right-click on an opposing enemy structure or unit, that unit will just immediately attack. However, if you right-click on something, your unit is committed to whatever you just right-click on. What this means is that, say that I right-click on an enemy out of a group of about 5, and it's the strongest enemy in the group, so my unit will try to get close in on that unit and attack it no matter what else is going on around it. So it will not respond to the other enemies that get closer first, or the other enemies that might be shooting at it right now. It will just do whatever I just right-clicked on. Attack. The one very useful thing to remember is that you can just right-click on something to attack it, or you can use the attack move command. Attack move is when you specifically select the attack command from the command card, and then just left-click somewhere on the map. What this does is that the unit will move to wherever you just clicked on the map. But along the way, if it spots enemy units or structures, it'll engage them automatically based on proximity. So the first thing it sees from the enemy is the first thing it's going to attack. So this is very useful for whenever you just want your army to move forward and just kill everything that it might find along its path. And yeah, just keep that in mind. I'll show you how it works later in an actual match against the computer. But for now, I just want you to be aware of that. With the command card also has a bunch of other things that are very specific to the unit. These 5 commands are across the board for all units. But beyond that, it's all very specific on the unit itself. So for the SCV, we have a couple things here. We have repair, which allows it to repair structures that are damaged. This is a very unique advantage of the Terran. The Terran are the only race in the game that is capable of repairing its own structures. For the Protoss just have to wait for the structure to regenerate. The Zerg actually can heal their own structures, but it's not quite as free, or I don't know how to put it, but just be aware that the Terran has a distinct advantage of being able to repair its buildings at any time. So if my buildings get damaged, all I have to do is select the SCV and right-click on the building that's damaged, and the SCV will begin repairing it. One very useful thing to note about repair is that if you right-click it, it'll start shining, and this means that the ability is set to auto-cast. That means that if the SCV is standing around idly and doing nothing, and it knows that there's a building damaged nearby that needs to be repaired, it'll automatically move to repair it without waiting for you to tell it so. So I personally like to have my SCV set to auto repair, but that's a matter of preference. The other command over here is gather, which is exactly what happens when you right click on a mineral patch. The SCV moves out and starts gathering resources. Now, much more importantly, however, is the build structure command down here. Build structure, if you click on this, it'll open up another menu which has a list of structures that your SCV can build. This is where you're probably wondering how to make other units in the game and how to increase your supply. Well, this is where you do it. You go into build structure, you have the command center, what you have here already. You have the refinery, which is what you need in order to harvest gas in this game. To harvest gas in this game, you can't just right-click on a Vespene geyser. I'm going to attempt to do that right now. And the SCV will travel to the geyser, but it will not be able to gather gas from it. In order to gather gas, you first have to put a building that extracts or refines the gas for you, and then your worker can start harvesting. I'll show you that in a little bit. Right now, I want to focus on this, the supply depot. So I'm going to select the supply depot, which requires 100 minerals, by the way. I'm going to put it down right there. So the SCV is going to build a supply depot, and as soon as it's finished, you're going to see that my supply capacity is going to go up. I'm going to build a few more SCVs to fill up these 11 units that I have right here. These 11 supply points, I mean. And presto.
SCV ready.
Okay, now that the supply depot is finished, it has added 8 supply to my maximum supply. So I can build up to 19 supplies worth of units now. So now that I have a supply depot, I'm going to go back to the build structure tab, and I'm going to go into barracks, and I'm going to go find a barracks. It's right underneath the command center. This was grayed out a moment ago, and that is because buildings, like, just take a look at these ones down here that are still grayed out. Buildings have requirements that must be met before they can be produced. A barracks required a supply depot before you can make a barracks. So I made a supply depot, now that barracks is available to me. So I'm going to throw down a barracks right over here. And I'm going to make more workers. Now, while that barracks is constructing, because it's going to take a little while, I'm going to grab another worker unit. I'm going to go back into the build structure tab, and I'm going to select a refinery, and I'm going to make a refinery over on top of the geyser so I can start getting some Vespene gas as well.
SCV ready.
Now, while these guys finish training and these structures finish constructing, I am going to show you a couple of things that are going to be, one thing that is going to be very handy to you, and that is down here on the lower left-hand side of the screen. Look at this. This is the mini-map.